Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicola, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar, which is Let's Talk About Inclusion and Diversity. So thank you so much for joining us. I am the Education and Events Lead for the North of England region for a charity called the Engineering Development Trust. And we are on a mission to inspire young people to pursue STEM careers. And we're really lucky this week to be co-hosting the events with GE that are celebrating the 10th birthday of GE's Girls Get Set programme. So you'll hear a little bit more about GE shortly, but just want to say a big warm welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we do want this session to be as interactive as possible. So if you have just logged on, you've just joined us, please do make use of the Q&A function. And so just a reminder for those of you who perhaps have only just joined, there is a side panel and a small speech icon on the side panel. If you select that, then you will be able to use the Q&A function. Please do type in your questions for our panel, any comments, and please do interact with us today. Okay. So we are going to kick things off with a bit of interaction and getting everyone who's watching involved. So I have a couple of questions for you. So this is particularly for any students who are watching. What do you think an engineer does, and what does an engineer look like? So have a think for a couple of minutes. And if you have an answer, let your teacher know. And teachers, if you can put those answers in the chat for us, that would be great. So what does an engineer look like? And what do you think an engineer does? Okay, so we will come back to those answers a little bit later on. So do keep typing them in and sending them across. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Marilisa from GE, and she'll let you know a little bit more about their organisation.
Hello, thank you so much, Nicola. My name is Marilisa Vega, and I am delighted to welcome you here today. The session we're running today is brought to you by GE. And GE is a technology company working all around the world. Today's speakers come from 5 of our GE businesses that are based in different parts of the UK. Those are GE Aviation, GE Digital, GE Healthcare, GE Renewable Energy, and GE Power. And we decided to finish our week of Girls Get Set's 10th birthday by focusing on just how important it is for us to be inclusive as organizations, as companies, as teams, and definitely as individuals. So, for example, research from McKinsey shows that companies with a diverse mix of men and women on leadership teams are 25% more profitable than the least gender diverse companies. And then when you look at ethnic diversity, the case is even more compelling at 36% more profitability. So why are companies still struggling to have more diversity at all levels, and especially in STEM roles? Well, the truth is we don't have all the answers, but we're really looking forward to exploring this topic further with you and with our panelists. So why does diversity in STEM matter so much? Well, we thought this quote sums it up nicely. So diversity drives innovation, diversity makes us adaptable, and diversity even makes us smarter. A lack of diversity in STEM will lead to fewer discoveries, which means fewer and potentially less viable solutions to humanity's most pressing problems. The people working in STEM professions need to represent the people using STEM products and services. They need to be representative of society as a whole. If products are designed by a narrow group of people, then they won't suit all users. So just to give you an example of that, if we look at air conditioners, right? Air conditioning temperatures in office, the settings, were developed in the 1960s based on the metabolic rate of a 40-year-old man who weighs about 70 kgs. But then a 2015 study in the journal Nature found that women are more comfortable in temperatures up to 5 degrees warmer than that. So that, I guess, explains why I'm always turning up thermostats in my house. I think Roz will share you a link to more info on that. And now I'm just going to hand back over to Nicola to get to the heart and soul of our session. So back over to you.
Thank you, Marilisa. Okay, so it's time to meet our panelists. So as Marilisa has already mentioned, we have 5 panelists joining us today from across different parts of the GE business. It's wonderful that they can share their insights and their experiences of inclusion and diversity with us, but I think it's about time that we met them. So, panelists, I would like to ask each of you to tell us your name, the GE business that you work for and where it's located, then an unusual fact about yourself, and also your favourite snack. So let's work our way down the list. Let's go to Stuart first. Stuart.
Hi, so my name is Stuart and I work for GE Power. An unusual fact about myself is I once went to watch Scotland play rugby, and while I was watching, I got called out of the crowd and had to play for the opposition. And my favourite snack is Millionaire Shortbread. Love it.
Thank you, Stuart. I have to agree with Millionaire Shortbread.
Definitely.
Top snack. Okay, so moving on now to Jaslyn.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessalyn Jing and I'm working for the GE Healthcare at the moment, and it's based in the UK, Amersham, so North London. And unusual facts about me, probably if I'm not doing the job I'm doing now, I want to be a chef, is just because I'm such a foodie. I love food so much. And my favorite snack is Pringles. I know it's not the healthiest snack, but I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaslyn. Again, another great snack, Pringles. But the thing is, you can't just eat one, can you? You have to eat almost a whole tube. Okay, so moving on, let's hear from Hamda.
Hello, my name is Hamda. I am at GE Digital, located in Livingston, just outside of Edinburgh, but I'm currently in Cardiff working from home. An unusual fact, I change this up all the time, but I used to have a very weird obsession with odd numbers. So I would always have the volume of odd numbers. I would eat Pringles or Skittles or anything in an odd number, which is always against everyone who's around me because everyone likes even numbers. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's unusual nonetheless. And my favorite snack would definitely be dark chocolate biscuits, or anything dark chocolate for that matter. I'm definitely a sucker for that.
Thank you, Hamda. And yeah, I do think you're the first person who I've heard from who prefers odd numbers to even numbers. So,
I guess it means that I'm odd.
Yeah, it's good. It means that you stand out from the crowd. It's only a good thing. Okay, shall we hear from Nicola?
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Nicola Murphy and I'm based at the GE Renewables business in Stafford in the West Midlands. An interesting fact about me is that I'm an adult instructor with a youth organisation called the Army Cadet Force, which I've been involved with since I was 12 years old as a cadet, and I'm now been an instructor since I was 18. And in terms of my favourite snack, if I'm being healthy, it's blueberries. but I'll be honest, it's probably crisps.
Thank you, Nicola. Yeah, absolutely. I like to have a healthy snack as well, but I very rarely eat it. It's usually the crisps or the chocolate, definitely. And last but by no means least, Ian. Oh, Ian, you're muted.
You'd think after a year I'd be able to get the hang of this. Thanks. So my name's Ian. I'm in GE Aviation, based in Prestwick in the southwest of Scotland. Unusual fact about me, well, I have the even numbers thing as well. I'm quite OCD about the even numbers on my car stereo. But the unusual fact that I was going to bring was that I've lived in Japan for a number of years previously. And as a result, my favourite snack is edamame beans.
Amazing. Definitely an unusual one. Yeah, lovely to have lived in Japan as well. I've got a friend from Japan, and it sounds like an amazing country actually to live in. So yeah, well, it was so good to hear from our panel there. Nice to hear their unusual facts. I hope you were paying close attention, everyone, because we are going to be playing a bit of a guessing game shortly with our panel. But before we do, let's just go back to those questions that we asked at the beginning, and let's see, Roz, have we had any answers?
Nothing yet, so maybe we should just give it a minute or so and let people focus on that. I think maybe they've been listening to the panel and getting to know the panel. Yeah.
No problem. Okay, so we can move on from the questions and perhaps come back to them a little bit later on. Please don't be shy. Please do put your answers in the chat. And these questions are really integral to today's theme. So we would really love to hear your answers. So please do share them. Okay, then I guess it is back to our guessing game. So hopefully in a second, we will be able to start our game, because we have heard quite briefly from our panel. So we've had very limited information from them, but we are now going to chat to them before our guessing game, sorry, about inclusion and diversity. So let's go to our panel one by one and ask them about their thoughts on inclusion and diversity. Nicola, let's start with you. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share with us? Any tips, any quotes about inclusion and diversity?
Sure. So for me, inclusion and diversity means bringing together as many backgrounds, opinions, mindsets as possible into a team environment, and really using that to boost the number of ideas that are generated. Someone who has a different background from you could come up with something that you would never think about, and it actually works really well towards getting really innovative solutions that quite often work better because you've had multiple inputs and varying inputs into them.
Thank you, Nicola. Absolutely. And we heard earlier on from Marilisa about how it enhances the workplace to, you know, have inclusion and diversity at the heart of what you do. I wonder if perhaps Stuart has any words he'd like to share about inclusion and diversity.
Yeah, I think it's really important that everybody gets a chance to speak. And so what I do when I organise a meeting is I get everybody to write down on a post-it note their main idea, but without putting their name on. I collect all the post-it notes in, shuffle them up, and then read them out, just taking the top one at a time. And that way in a meeting, you get a different person speaking first each time, which is a really good way of getting those people who maybe are a little bit shyer or a little bit quieter to talk first, and by picking their idea out. And that way also you give everybody the opportunity, rather than just have to agree or disagree with the loudest person or the most boisterous person in the meeting, everybody gets treated the same. So it's a really good way to start a meeting. Just takes 2 seconds to do, handful of post-it notes, but it's a really good way to manage a meeting, and that way everybody changes and each meeting a different person speaks first.
Thank you, Stuart. I absolutely love that idea. You know, it's so great that people who might not normally speak out first in a meeting get that opportunity to do so, because it just encourages those broader ideas from the, you know, from the whole team. And so that's a really great tip. How about Hamda?
I think I would just like to say also that was a really great idea. I think I'm going to pitch that to my manager. But I would definitely, well, diversity inclusion is definitely important. Obviously, for me, I've always wanted to go into a space that I see someone who's very similar to me, you know, a woman, a Black woman, a Muslim woman, that I can relate to, that I can talk to, and also to see that there are places that I can reach and there aren't any limitations. And I think from that sense, it's really important, because you might be in such a sheltered or you know, shy space for such a long time, you won't be able to see your potential, essentially. And for me, knowing that I was extremely shy, I was an extremely shy kid, I would have loved to seen someone like me in my space. So I think that is one of the main reasons I really root for it, and also to know that there are so many different mindsets that diversity can bring. You know, there's, you know, the way that you've been raised, cultures, whether it be work ethic or any other sort of ethics that you might have, it really does bring so many different sides and perspectives to any solution, really.
Thank you, Hamda. Yeah, absolutely. Again, just reinforcing the fact that it enhances a team or a workforce, but also, you know, that it helps everyone to feel valued and included in the team. Jaslyn, do you have anything to say about inclusion and diversity?
Yes, definitely. So I think diversity and inclusion definitely important, because I think working in such a environment creates a sense of belonging for me. And I feel like more connected at work and more motivated and engaged as well. So normally, I want to be open-minded to others, and as well, I would like to include everyone in the meeting as well. And I remember I was very shy in the beginning when I joined the team, but I was very encouraged by my manager and the other team members to just speak up, regardless if your opinions is right or wrong, is good or not so good. It's all very encouraging, and I just feel like the team is very, very welcoming as well. So that's what I would like to do to others as well. So they will feel like that's a team they want to join and work in the very long time as well. So I think that will actually build a better trust between me and the team members, and that would just actually bring everyone to work together as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaslyn. I love the word trust there as well, which is so important in a team. And with inclusion and with diversity, that does bring a strong air of trust to the team. And then Ian, would you like to tell us anything about inclusion and diversity?
Yeah, so diversity is hugely important in all aspects of our life, and particularly in business. I think it was Nicola said that having that different views and different perspectives, different experiences brings a more wholesome discussion, debate and solutions to problems, and in our environment a lot more productivity, more productive, because if everybody's coming from the same perspective, the same experiences, you'll get a much more limited result. And that's the benefit of diversity. Diversity only really works and comes to the fore if you have inclusion. So inclusion is needed to make diversity work, because then people can, I think as Hamda said, come and bring their whole self and be more curious and be able to be open in what they do. So diversity is one thing, but we really must create that culture of inclusion so people feel comfortable to be open. And the one tip that I would give is one that my grandmother always gave to me, is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that proportion. So listen more to others to gain insights.
Thank you, Ian. And such an important point there, that we need inclusion to encourage diversity. So they both go hand in hand, absolutely. Okay, so going back then to our questions. So thinking about what do you think an engineer does and what does an engineer look like? So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to type in an answer for these questions. In the meantime, perhaps Roz, you could tell us what you thought an engineer was supposed to look like when you first joined GE.
Yeah, so I've actually worked at GE for over 15 years, and I think 15 years ago, if anyone had asked me, I would probably have said that the person was a man, that they actually we just had an answer from Gordon School saying that they wore a hard hat and safety goggles, and I think I probably would have definitely said the safety goggles. I think they would have probably maybe had a beard even. And what else would I have said? That it would have been a very manual kind of job, I would have said. I think that they would probably be the main things. Possibly they might have had a beard. I don't know why I say that, but that's kind of what's in my mind as well.
That's such a funny one, isn't it? And it's such a specific feature that we associate just with a job title, just a beard. Yeah, I wonder, have we had any more answers?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. We'll just give you a few more seconds in case anyone else would like to answer. What do you think what does an engineer look like? But has anyone got any answers for what do you think an engineer does as well?
Actually, Gordon School in Surrey, they gave a really good definition. They said it's a person who designs and builds engines, machines and structures.
That's a great answer. Engines, machines and structures. Fab.
We've had another anonymous reply saying this person has crazy hair and is an older person.
That's a brilliant answer. Love it. Okay, well, perhaps people will have a few more answers. We can always come back to them at the end of the session. So I think we will move on and play that guessing game with our panelists. So as I was saying, we've heard from our panelists, we've heard even a bit more from them now. So we've had a bit of extra information, but we don't know what their jobs are yet. So based on hearing them talk and what their favourite snack is and what part of the business they work in, we're going to see if we can match the correct job to the correct person. So on the left, you've got the person, and on the right is the job. So I will give you a minute or two now. So everyone who's watching, please do join in and pop your answers in the chat for us. So which job belongs to which person? So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to have a think. So we've got a commercial finance analyst, an electrical engineer, we have a factory manager, a human resources director and a project engineer. So who does which job? And teachers, if there's a discussion going on in your classroom right now, please do write something in the chat and share it with us. And even if you're not a student or a teacher and you're watching, join in as well. Why not? See if you can guess correctly which job belongs to which person. Okay, just give it 30 more seconds and then see if we've had any answers. Okay. So I'm just going to ask Roz. Roz, do we have any guesses?
We've got a few coming through, so I think we should definitely just leave it a few more, another 30 seconds or so, because I think people are just typing at the moment.
Okay, brill. So remember, students, do share your guesses with your teachers. Teachers, pop your answers in the chat. And maybe whilst we're waiting for everyone to have the chance to share their answers, perhaps we could go maybe to one of our panelists and ask them what they thought an engineer looked like when they first came into the industry. Hamda, would you like to share with us what you thought an engineer looked like?
Mine was very, very similar to what Roz said. We'll ignore that. An older man, a very big man who knows, who looks like they can, lift heavy things. Maybe grumpy, hard hat. Very, very, very toxic definition of what engineering could be. But my manager was telling me actually the other day that his daughter said to him, "Oh, what do you do?" And he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm an engineer." He was like, "No, all engineers are women because my mum's an engineer, so you can't be an engineer." I was like, that is so strange because I've never heard it from that way. And but yeah, it's I think I definitely had that perception of it's a man, and it's definitely a man's world in the engineering field. And if you get into it, then you're asking for it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. That sort of term of it's a man's world in the field of engineering. Perhaps the answers that we've had might say otherwise. I think we've had quite a lot of answers to the questions now, have we, Roz?
Yes, we have, and they're keeping me busy. I think I'm just publishing them, but I think what's really interesting is it's a complete spread of answers. There's not really a consensus, except that quite a few people think that Nicola is a factory manager. That's probably the biggest consensus that we've had.
Yeah.
2 people thought that Stuart was the commercial finance analyst, and 2 people thought that Nicola was. For the human resources director, some people thought Jazz was, some people thought Ian, some people thought Hamda. For the electrical engineer, some people thought that was Hamda, and one person thought it was Jaslyn. So yeah, as I was saying, a real mix, and particularly for the project engineer, that was a real mix as well. So
okay. So mixed opinions about which job belongs to which person. And thank you so much, everyone, for your answers and for interacting with us. Really, really great to see that. I think it might be time for the big reveal. So, did you guess right? So what I will do is we'll call out the job title, and then we will see the person who belongs to that job title come up on our screen. So are we ready? Can we reveal who our commercial finance analyst is? Okay. Okay, would you like to take your paper down so we can see? Excellent. Okay, next, let's see who our electrical engineer is. Oh, There we go. I think we can see Nicola there. Ah, there she is. Okay, and our Human Resources Director. Let's go live. Okay, there we go. Would you like to reveal us to who you are? There we go. And our Factory Manager. Let's see who our Factory Manager is. Okay, let's reveal. There we go. I wonder if you got these right. So that obviously leaves us with one last person who is our project engineer. So let's have a look. And let's reveal. Oh, this one's a bit snazzy. This is a snazzy reveal. There she is. It's Hamda. Brilliant. So well done if you guessed any of those correctly. And yeah, so those are the jobs that match the correct person. So there we go. We can see now, just to confirm, I wonder what it was that led you to your guesses. So what was going on in your brain when you were trying to match up the job with the person? And that actually leads us quite nicely onto our topic today, which is unconscious bias. So unconscious bias is when we make judgments or decisions on the basis of our prior experience, our own personal deep-seated thought patterns, assumptions, or interpretations, and we are not aware that we are doing it. So that's a nice quote from the Royal Society there about what unconscious bias is. And so I wonder if when you were trying to guess which job belonged to which person, whether unconscious bias played a role in your decisions. We've got a nice video now, actually, which just explores the term a little bit more. So we'll just play you that video.
The unconscious mind is amazing. It can process vastly more information than our conscious mind by using shortcuts based on our background, cultural environment, and personal experiences to make almost instantaneous decisions about everything around.
Okay, it looks like we might be having a bit of a lag with the video, so just bear with us.
Decisions about everything around us. The snag is, it's wrong quite a lot of the time, especially on matters that need rational thinking. Here's a classic example. A bat and a
Okay, just bear with us, everyone. It wouldn't be a live event if there wasn't a technical glitch. We'll just see if we can get it running.
The unconscious mind is amazing. It can process vastly more information than our conscious mind by using shortcuts based on our background, cultural environment.
Okay, sadly, it looks as though we're having lots of technical issues playing the video. So I think what we will do is share the link to the video in the chat. It's on YouTube, it's on Vimeo as well. So keep an eye out for that. We'll share the link in the chat, and then hopefully you guys can watch that video later on at the end of today's workshop. But the whole point of the video really was to start to get us thinking about sort of what is unconscious bias. Are we aware of how big a role it plays in our decision making, and particularly when it comes to working in teams and in the workplace as well? And that's what our discussion is based on today. And we do want to ask our panel a few questions about unconscious bias and hear their thoughts. So, panel, I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, could you each share one top tip for how you try to overcome your own unconscious bias? And let's go to Ian first.
So yeah, the one top tip I would bring is just to remember that everybody, me, you, everybody has unconscious bias. It's not a bad thing. We just need to be aware of it and try and act on it. So just be aware that you will have unconscious bias, and maybe just think a little bit before you start to make decisions, and be a bit more open to, as I said, the 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen a lot more. And that can inform where your unconscious bias is maybe coming out.
Thank you, Ian. And do we have any, well, a top tip maybe from Hamda?
I would probably say try and surround yourself, or try and get to know as many cultures as you can. You know, be open to learn, be open to learn from your mistakes or unlearn a lot of things. And try and be very, try and not be so, what am I trying to say? Ask as many questions as you can, essentially. Even if you think that it may come across a bit offensive, you are trying to learn at the end of the day. And I think that's the most important thing from, you know, trying to tackle your unconscious bias.
Thank you, Hamda. And how about Jaslyn?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Ian and Hamda said earlier. I think it's definitely common to have the unconscious biases ourselves. However, based on my experience, I would like to try to get to know my colleagues a little bit more, and also having like just more contacts with like different groups as well. Especially those ones you think you've got like a bias. So once you learn more about them, can actually help you to undermine your bias and probably replace with like new information. So I think that's definitely helpful.
Thank you, Jaslyn. Learning about other people, absolutely. It's the first step, isn't it? Shall we go to Stuart next?
Yeah, for me, in HR, a lot of the time I spend is looking at CVs and recruiting, working with managers. And one thing I do is I try and make the managers not look at the name or the university where the engineers come from, but look at what they've written. So I actually will cut that bit off the CVs when I give it to the manager and look at the content, because I find that a lot of the time managers will look to my university was the best university, so I will go there first, or my town is the best town, or my school is the best town. So by hiding that information, it stops them from having that unconscious bias. And then when they get the big reveal, just like we did before, of where the person's been, or the age of the person, or the gender of the person, they're often a little shocked themselves.
Yeah, that's such a good technique, isn't it? Completely trying as much as we can to remove the potential of the unconscious bias, making those decisions. And the fact that we're then shocked when we get the reveal kind of speaks volumes, doesn't it? And Nicola.
Okay. For me, it's kind of echoing a lot of what the others have said, it's acknowledging that you have that unconscious bias and trying to push that part to the back of your mind and really get to know the people that you're working with. In the part of the business that I work in, we have 46 different nationalities just in the one office. So taking the time to get to learn the people who come from those nationalities, the backgrounds that they have, and really their personalities that go along with it really works well to kind of push again those unconscious biases to the back of your mind. And also I'm a team leader, so part of my role is hiring people and kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, ignore the university that they come from and just look at their skill sets, and try to acknowledge them for their skills and what they can bring to the team more than their background and stuff like that, and trying to make sure that you're not letting any unconscious bias come in that way.
Thank you, Nicola. And how amazing to hear. Did you say 46 nationalities in your office?
Yes, 46.
Wow, that's incredible, isn't it? That's definitely showing diverse and an inclusive workforce there, isn't it? That's amazing. Okay, I have another question for everybody, which is, why does diversity and inclusion matter in your workplace? So let's go to Stuart first for this one.
I think it comes from two things. One is when we're looking to develop or invent something, there's an unconscious, if you don't have diversity, you don't have different ideas. People can only take the information around them, process that information and come up with a solution. By having diversity and different ideas come in, you've got more facts, more data points, which then the engineers can use and think about to come up with different solutions. So you often see this, why two people will come up and invent something at the same time in different parts of the world. It's because they're both using the same bit of information. But if you combine those people together, you may come up with a third solution. So it gives us much more innovation, much more new ideas, much more new products that can come to market by having more different facts and different people. And that comes from diverse teams from different cultures, different locations all around the world.
Thank you, Stuart. It's so important to have innovation and creativity, isn't it? Especially looking ahead to the fourth industrial revolution and all the different jobs that are being created and the way in which the industry is moving forward. We 100% need creativity, and we need different and diverse ideas. So it's very, very important. Let's go to Jaslyn next.
Yeah, sure. I think diversity and inclusion are equally important, especially at work. And I think, for example, once you have a very inclusive work environment, and I think the diversity will actually follow. And for diversity, you probably can quantify diversity, but it's hard to actually measure the inclusive work environment, for example. But I think we need to be in that environment to allow us to build, as I said, the better trust, and also you feel more motivated, and you probably need the motivation, especially during now, the period, we're all working from home, and we're probably coming from different places, and we need that motivation to actually work as a team, and working in that environment we actually tend to work harder and smarter, and we probably deliver higher quality work as well. So eventually that will have positive impacts on the business too. So we have better business performance, and then the business will actually attract more qualified talents afterwards as well.
Thank you so much, Jaslyn. And it's so important, isn't it, that we feel motivated at work, because as you quite rightly said, it does improve performance for the business, and the same goes for for any kind of team, even if it's not the workplace. Even at school, if you're working on a project in a team, if you all feel motivated, your project outcomes are often a lot better. And having diversity and inclusion motivates people, so that's a really, really good and important reason to have it. Yeah, thank you, Jaslyn. Shall we go to Ian next?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, very similar to Stuart, he said about the diversity of different ideas will give you a more wholesome or a different solution or more productivity. And I'd just stress again on inclusion. That's the secret sauce to making diversity work. You know, people need to be comfortable to be their whole self and bring their whole experiences to work, regardless of what that whole self is. You shouldn't be thinking defensively any time about who you are or how you are or the way you are, whether that's, you know, race, religion, sexual orientation. I mean, I'm an ally in the Pride network in GE and had been for many years in previous employers. And can you imagine, as someone who's you know, having to be guarded about mentioning the gender of their partner for fear of giving away their whole self and their whole, they just can't be completely productive or feel included within the organisation. So that's the secret sauce, and us as leaders and engineers need to work hard at creating that respectful environment where people can be their whole self.
Thank you, Ian. I couldn't agree more about having a respectful environment and feeling like you can be your whole self at work, or, you know, as I've mentioned, in a team, maybe at school as well. And it's so important to feel that you can be your whole self, because that's when you're at your best. I believe we've still not heard from Nicola.
Hi, so kind of similar to what I was saying before, having diversity in your workplace really brings a vast amount of experience, backgrounds, problem-solving techniques, and potential solutions to any problems that you're facing. And the inclusion side of it, kind of echoing what Ian said, is probably one of the most important parts of it. Feeling like you are accepted in your workplace, you have the ability to say your opinions, to share your thoughts and feelings with everyone, and that it's not going to be judged based off who you are, where you come from, and what you look like, is a way of creating that safe place to really encourage the openness and the problem solving and the raising of ideas that we need to do what we do as engineers.
Thank you, Nicola. And shall we hear from Hamda?
Yeah, hello. Just a mix of what everyone said. They all had it spot on. You know, meshing all the ideas, making sure that you're included, making sure that you feel included, definitely really is a huge reason why it's very, very important for diversity and inclusion to be considered in the workplace. You know, making sure that there's that space for someone to be comfortable, to answer questions, to share, ask that silly question that might be very important. You know, it's yeah, everyone echoing at what everyone said. Essentially, they took all the good answers.
Thank you, Hamda. Yeah, they're such good answers, aren't they? As I said at the start in the welcome, when Ros asked me what I was looking forward to, it is hearing from the panelists, because you have such insightful and brilliant things to say. On that note of hearing from people, I believe we have a question, Ros, for our panel.
Yes, we've had a couple of questions come through. I just wanted to encourage everyone to ask any question that's on your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be about diversity, inclusion, or unconscious bias. If there's something else you'd like to know about what it's like to work at GE or something like that, just send your questions through. But the first question we had is, what do you do at GE to help people to be aware of their unconscious bias?
Shall we go to Jaslyn for that answer?
Yeah, sure, of course. So I think, as I said earlier, I probably have had an experience, probably talk to more people at work, not just in my team, but also team from different departments as well. Kind of get to know them better, and just not about the work itself, but also about their personalities. What do they do after work? What is their favorite snack, for example, so we know what to get them next time when they have birthdays coming up. So all sorts, I think, are definitely helpful, and I think to definitely not just help me and also other people at work to avoid or like reminding ourselves to not just having those like unconscious biases at work, and also like try to think about like actively think about the possible effects of the unconscious biases. So that's what I've done. So I think for me it's definitely very helpful, but definitely also I will listen to others at work. You know, you always have to like listen, then people will think they're valued as well.
Thank you, Jaslyn. And Stuart, would you like to answer that question too?
Yeah, we run a training session that we put all employees through every 2 or 3 years, which is a little group session where we take newspaper articles, things that are in the news where events have happened that there could be linked to bias. And then we put scenarios in front of the team, which are quite challenging scenarios and potentially be quite awkward for people to talk about. Such as, you know, people passing comments about somebody in the workplace and it's overheard. Do you challenge them? Do you report it? Do you go and ignore it? And we see how they react. And as a group, we talk about it and we help. There's no right or wrong answers, but everybody goes through this training. And it's really insightful that after people come out, they go, yeah, I can spot some unconscious bias, or I can spot some issues that I might have ignored myself. And we repeat the training every 3 years, but with different teams going through it every time. It works very well. It's been very, very popular, and that way we ensure everybody gets touched and everybody has an opportunity to look at themselves and think about it. We call it the inclusion training.
Brilliant. Yeah, inclusion training, so important and so nice to hear that, you know, GE are making that a priority. How fantastic. And Ian, I believe you have an answer for us as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can reiterate what Stuart says, because I've been running this week some respectful workplace training, which does exactly that, allows people to talk about potentially awkward situations and help remind people what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable in terms of what we expect from GE employees about being open and inclusive. And across the company, I mentioned being an ally in our Pride LGBT network. We've got some fantastic, we call them affinity networks, of the Women's Network in GE, the Pride or LGBT network, the African American network, Asian Pacific network, Veterans Network, Disabilities Network, and I'm part of 3 of those networks as a participant and as an ally. And it really just promotes open conversation. And we continually remind people, as I tried to do earlier, that everybody has unconscious bias. I remember being told once that you only need 2 things to have unconscious bias, and 1 is a brain, and 2 is to have lived in a society, and your bias is linked to those experiences. So we talk about unconscious bias being a real thing and helping people be aware of it. We train people on respectful workplace and what's expected of GE employees, and we've got a great group of affinity networks where people can join, discuss, ask questions and learn more and be themselves, which is the secret to it.
Thank you so much. And there's so many wonderful things happening to encourage inclusion and diversity, and it's so important. We do have another question actually for our panelists today, and I think a couple of you may have already answered this just in the answers that you've given, but perhaps if we go to Nicola first, and maybe Nicola, if you could give us an example of how you create a more inclusive culture in your team.
Sure. So the team that I have is made up of people based in the UK, but also there's part of my team based in India. So originally, to start with, we had some cultural differences, communication differences, the way that we responded to different events and how we reacted in team meetings. So what I did around that situation was put us all in the same even path. So everyone joined a call separately from their own desks, as opposed to having some people sitting in one room and some sitting in the other, and then you've got 2 silos. And everyone gets a chance in those meetings to share their opinions. So I go round each person. For the first little while, I was going around each person, making sure that they had a chance to introduce themselves, get to know the other members of their teams through sharing some things, but also had their opportunity to speak. And after doing that a few times, it then became natural for the team to just have that moment where everyone got to share, everyone got to have their opinion, and it really worked to make our team very inclusive of each other. Everyone feels like they're part of it, and they can all openly share their opinions and their ideas with the group.
Thank you, Nicola. And it's great to hear that everyone feels like they can share those opinions and their thoughts, because as we've already heard today, it's important to hear from everyone to get the best team and the best workforce. Hamda, I wonder if you have an answer to that question.
So from a team member's perspective, I don't want to say I like to talk about my culture, but I like to expose my side of the world to others, I guess. Tell people about where I'm from and, neighboring countries and a bit about our culture. So that's easier for team leaders or other members to know what's acceptable to ask, what's not, or what we find, what ways that we look at things, or, try and break that unconscious bias that they may have. In case they don't have the questions, or they might not want to ask the questions, I like to be very open about where I'm from and any questions that I might have, because I think sometimes people get a bit worried or feel very reserved about asking particular questions. I mean, I don't want to say I'm the spokesperson for every Somali woman out there, but I like to be very open about where I'm from to help people with their unconscious bias.
Thank you, Hamda. And it's great that you feel that you can be open about that, and hopefully other people can start to feel the same as well across all of their teams and all of their workforces. We've had a question in from Gordon's school. What are the career opportunities or progression in the GE healthcare sector? So Jaslyn, would you mind answering that one for us?
Yeah, sure, of course. I think obviously depends on what the interest you have, and we offer so many different opportunities in different functions or departments. If you're interested in finance, we have a place for you. If you're interested in healthcare products, then you can join the R&D team and also the product team to look at our fantastic products, which are sold to like 100 different countries around the world. However, if you want to join the supply chain team, then you can join the local manufacturing side to understand how we manufacture products and how can we actually increase the productivity. And it's all very interesting, and it all it has its own different little world. And obviously in terms of the opportunities, we have our a website to always put the opportunities there, so you can have a look from apprenticeship to senior for example graduate schemes, and also very even after senior manager roles after. So I think it will suit each of you. Well, it depends on what the career choice you want to have. And I mean, since I joined the GE, I haven't had a boring day, I would say. It's very exciting and fast-paced work environment. However, everyone is very supportive and helpful. So I feel definitely welcoming, and I have enjoyed the work here since day one. So I definitely encourage you to apply for GE later. Not just healthcare, probably other businesses as well.
Thank you, Jaslyn. It certainly sounds like there are tons of opportunities in GE healthcare. Sadly, we have a minute left, so I don't know where the time has gone. But we did have a nice question about why you chose to work at GE. So perhaps we could finish by going to each person, and if you could give us one reason why you chose to work at GE. And let's start with Nicola.
One reason is tough, but okay. So I joined GE straight out of university on a graduate program, and the main reason for joining the company at that time is the opportunities that that graduate program offered me to grow and learn as a junior engineer. And I've stayed ever since purely because I loved what I was doing, the challenges that I'm offered and the development that's there.
Thank you, Nicola. Let's go to Ian next.
Well, it's really simple for me. I get to work with fantastic machines like this one behind me, the GE-NX, that powers the Boeing Dreamliner and Boeing 747 freighter. What more could you ask for?
Amazing. Very good reason. And Stuart?
For me, it's been the opportunity. I started as an engineer. I've worked in over 20 countries. I've done quality, safety, and ended up in HR. Just the variety is really what keeps me and maybe joining in the first place.
Fantastic. And Jaslyn?
Yeah, I think definitely with the opportunities there, and also the people I've been working with, they are just fantastic.
Brilliant. And finally, Hamda?
Because the opportunities are endless. It's a huge company. I started as an intern, and I loved the team. I loved the office. I loved everything about it. So I had to come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hamda. As always, fantastic answers from our panel, and that brings us sadly to the end of our workshop today. So a big thank you from us for all of you for joining us today. An extra special thank you if you've been joining us all week as well for our Girls Get Set 10th anniversary celebrations. I'd like to say thank you to the panel for their amazing answers and all of that fantastic insight. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. We hope to maybe see you again soon. Thank you.